Hey, welcome. So honored you are here for How to Turn Betrayal into a Blessing. I'm Karyn Amore, speaker, coach, and author of Ride the Dragon, an interactive memoir, 10 do's and don'ts when you've been betrayed, and a workbook to build resiliency. And if you're interested in signing up to receive that for free as a gift from me, you can visit ridethedragon.biz, B-I-Z at the end, and that's my gift to you. You are here today to enjoy a conversation with two of my favorite colleagues and friends. I've got Kenny Benjamin, the relationship architect, and he has a special new program for moms that I'm really excited for him to share with you. And my dear colleague and friend Sallena Pool, Conscious Collaborations with Sallena Pool, and I'll just let them introduce themselves to you. Kenny, take it away.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Kenny Benjamin, the relationship architect. I work with moms and dads on relationships, relationships and intimacy issues, relationships between themselves, relationships with their kids, and most importantly, the relationship that each one has with themselves. Your relationship with yourself is the one that you build first, and then that helps you with all the relationships in your life, and that's what I do. And I just introduced a brand new 6-month online course for moms called the U2 Project, and it's at actually the youtubeproject.com/join-me. That's on your screen right now. And that is a 6-month development program for moms to focus on themselves. Because, you know, after being all things to all people, as all moms are, how can you become what you need to become for yourself? And that's what the program helps you develop. It helps you practice peace with your past and decide and identify what really matters to you in the present and what you want for your future, and a lot of new techniques and tools I give you to do that. So that's what I'm working on right now. Well, it's nice to be here.
Thank you, Kenny. Sallena Pool from Seaside, Oregon.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sallena Pool. My company is Conscious Collaborations, and I work with leaders and messengers to help lift them up to the light, to help them get their messages out, be clear speakers, and clearly represent themselves in the marketing and presence of their business. So I work a little bit more B2B and a little bit more in the background, but happy to be here with Karyn and Kenny. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's always nice to have you in the light. And let me just tell you what we're up to specifically today is we're going to have a conversation about how you can, for real, turn a betrayal into a blessing. No bypass here. A really important part of the process is to outlet and release all the negative emotions without fueling the conflict and making things worse for yourself. And another aspect is to expand time. I've helped hundreds of men and women as individuals and as companies and businesses and couples to really expand time, not go at each other when tensions are high, so that they come to long-term resolution that's best for all. And today we're going to have a conversation about the practices that you need to put into place to make that happen. It does require discipline, because when we're hurt and when we're in pain, the first thing we want to do is retaliate, get back at the person, and protect ourselves. And sometimes we fall prey to those wolves in sheep's clothing who prey on us when we're most vulnerable. And there's a real power in vulnerability. And I help my clients, and I'll help you today, to know when your vulnerability is a strength and when it might make you vulnerable to people who want to take advantage of you. Because I've been on all sides of high-stakes conflicts my story is not the usual one, so let me set it up for you. I had an affair, and I shared it with my family and my husband. And then my husband took our two sons back to Italy for 8 months. And I did not see those boys when they were 3 and 5 for 8 months. We went through all kinds of emotional turmoil and devastating financial. We both, my husband and I, went into debt, and it was just the biggest devastating experience of our lives. Thankfully, we were able to come back together, rebuild, reconcile, and that's not the usual story either. And it took a lot of discipline, a lot of practices that I now teach my clients. And it's a real honor to be able to impact lives, and before they become the devastation that I went through. So that's a little more about me. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of having someone to share your story with. That's the number one do's and don'ts when you've been betrayed and all those big emotions come up and you don't know what to do and you're panicking and you're in so much pain, is to not make any big decisions and not hire anyone or do anything drastic, but also to find someone to tell your story to. I call it a rant date. I do like to elevate these situations because they can be so heavy, and the best way to get through anything is to keep your focus on what makes you feel good, keep those practices going, whatever it is for you. Do extra kind things and go out for runs or watch funny movies. Do what you need to do to keep your spirits up, and know that there are many professionals who are dedicated to truly helping you make it and come through to the other side of the pain and turmoil that betrayals bring up. So before I go on anymore, do you, Kenny or Sallena, have anything to add about best practices when you've been betrayed?
Well, best practices is a stretch. Perhaps my most common practice, I would say, is cake. I'm a huge fan of chocolate cake, preferably multi-layered cakes. I like a good 7-layer cake. Sometimes a 3-layer cake will do. But if you can find a good 7-layer cake, I've always found that that's helpful. It's not a long-term solution, don't get me wrong, in any way. And it's not always the healthiest solution, but as a short-term, comforty solution, I found it to be very helpful.
You're so awesome, Kenny.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, my God.
Oh, gosh, that is just the most awesome thing ever.
But if you want to take up more of a profound idea, in my work as a marriage and family therapist, I suggest to people breathing is a really good start, and taking a step back. And whatever ways that you're able to take a step back, and I don't mean just for a moment, I mean for a period of time, whether that's walking or, in my case, I went through a very intense betrayal about 2.5 years ago, and what I did was I actually, it's devastating to me that I really needed to be away. I was a long story, but my father had gotten sick, and I moved in with him and took care of him and my stepmother for a year, and they both died of cancer. And then my step-siblings, based on the fact that my father left a very small amount of life insurance, half of it to me and the other half to the 3 of them, were very angry at that, and so it became all about money for them and greed and attack. And so I just needed to go away. So I actually went and lived and worked in a different city for a month to give me some space from that experience. That's not possible for everybody, and that's a kind of you could say maybe an extreme example, but it was very helpful to get space, and the idea of that for me was about creating space. So however you create space between you and the problem is helpful, I think, as opposed to letting it define you and overwhelm you. The space gives you some place to think about yourself outside of the totality of that problem as it defines you. And so often afterwards, as you know, Karyn, like that kind of betrayal just overwhelms you. It defines everything, and you can see nothing else beyond it. And that's really a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kenny. And I do have a really great resource for you that's written out if you're the kind of person that just needs to hold on to something. And it's at ridethedragon.biz. There's a sign-up sheet, and then as soon as you put in your name and your email, you'll get my written resource. And that is a big part of it, is how to actually create that space in a way that will serve your long-term resolution. Because, yeah, we know when the stuff hits the fan, we just completely get thrown off our center. So it's so important to get.
I have a story to offer too, Karyn. Short
go,
one.
Sallena, go. Thank you.
Thanks for the story that you shared, Kenny, because it reminded me of a family lawsuit battle that I was involved in that lasted for many years. Same kind of thing, family betrayal that ultimately boiled down to money. But the issue, how I coped with that was by staying really in the present. I had horses and dogs and people and plants to take care of on a small bed and breakfast ranch. And just being outdoors and being really present and being with those animals and having a routine and walking on the dirt and sitting in the sun and just staying really present and surrounded by nature was really an important tool for me. And breathing, that was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what got me through mine. Thank you, Sallena. Nature and that more than human world, when the humans closest to us have betrayed us, just remembering that there's a lot more to life than just our human relationships, not to undermine the importance of our human relationships. It's so beautiful. I felt you there with your dogs and horses and that sunshine and the earth, and sometimes just closing your eyes and taking away all that stimulus. My yoga practice was so integral to me being able to go through the huge betrayal that I went through and daily focus on the breath and moving my body in sync with breath and meditating. And I did a yoga kriya with laughter, actually forced laughter as part of it. And if you've been in my community for a while, you know that we've done some Tapas Tuesdays about laughing, especially when you don't feel like it. So any of those practices that both give you solid footing and your routine and keep in your routine, and then take extra time to come to center before you rush into any decisions. And I'm sure any of the three of us would be delighted to be of service to you in getting your footing again in our different ways that we serve businesses and individuals. So, anything else coming?
Excuse me. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It made me think of this idea that, you know, how powerful it is to feel betrayed, right? To feel that attack, that sense of injustice or whatever it is, however you make sense of it. And one of the other things that I like to do is to give myself permission to put the betrayal aside, or in my work we say put it in a drawer or put it in a cabinet and close the cabinet, and it'll be there for you later. It'll be there waiting to get out in the morning or tonight, but give yourself permission to put it aside for a little bit and remember these other aspects of your life. And I love Sallena's story because I went to see about nature, because I went to Seattle, and for me going to Seattle was about so much about the trees, excuse me, the trees and the water. And for me personally, that I find a deep sense of peace when I'm walking near water and with great trees. There's something about the energy of trees and water that is peaceful. And it's really hard to maintain anger and rage, in my experience, in and around beautiful trees, beautiful fields, whatever nature appeals to you. People are different. Some people like the desert. But whatever appeals to you, I find that creates kind of like a safe place almost, like a magical place that allows you, again, space from that overwhelming sense that this is all there is. So I love that. And animals as well, for many people, are incredibly, incredibly helpful in feeling some sense of connection outside of, again, that horrible connection that the betrayal holds you in.
Yeah.
Karyn, I would also add that during that time, what I wanted to do, what I really desired to do, was just stay in my house and crawl in a hole and put my head under the covers and just wish that it would all go away, or that the attorneys would handle it and I'd wake up tomorrow and things would be different. Of course, none of that could happen, partly because I had these beautiful animals to take care of, and so they got me up every day to deal with that. But more than that, I found my sanity by opening up to my community around there. Rather than just closing it and keeping it all inside. I mean, I don't really have a choice, because there was too much to do. So as there was too much to do, it was my blessing that there was too much to do. I had to share the load with people. I had to ask people for help. I had to tell them what was going on and why I was in the emotional and psychological place that I was. And I reached out to people on different levels. I reached out to some people with just feet on the ground helping to take care of the property and the facility. I reached out to other people, for spiritual guidance. I reached out to a couple of people as just friends to have rant dates, as you call them, Karyn, just to say whatever it was and I was feeling without recrimination that they thought I was a bad person. And then there were people that I actually hired to help me, besides legal people, that just sort of helped me through the process of staying in myself and staying grounded in my own power and knowing who I was and what the reality was. Because when you get in those super stressful situations and feel betrayed, you can sort of distort reality. And so there were several layers of people that I kind of gathered around me to support my going through those feelings as well. So I guess it's a form of vulnerability, because it felt really scary to share all those deep details of my life with people.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, I really appreciate that idea. That's such a huge part of what I talk about often, and what I believe in terms of this idea of socializing your vulnerability. Because we're all taught, and I think especially as men, but we're all taught in our culture to hide parts of ourselves for fear of being judged, or for fear of being not good enough, or not what we think we're supposed to be. And exactly the opposite is true in terms of health. The isolation leads to despair and really dangerous practices. And the opening up, as scary and as vulnerable as it makes us, leads to what Sallena was describing, is this being seen, this being witnessed, this feeling that we're not alone. And it's in my experience, it's the most powerful thing, this idea that we're not alone, and that other people understand, and they don't see us as weak or worthless. They see us as human, and so it allows us to see ourselves as human and flawed and struggled, and this is what life is. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, Thank you so much. It's really the key, because I think when we are betrayed, at least I know in my experience, I blamed myself. I thought, well, I betrayed first, and so somehow it's my fault that my kids have been taken from me, and that really gets in the way of repairing what needs to be repaired, and it's so incredibly painful when we blame ourselves and we stay in that. So thank goodness I had a job, and I had all kinds of friends and support, and I went back into therapy, and so all of those combined things together, and the blessing in all of that is it's become my work and my service from that deepest pain and the most devastating experience of my life. I can now really be there for my clients and just witness them, help them get clear when everything feels so incredibly confusing, help them know who to trust and to trust themselves again. And it's really miraculous, because these betrayals throw us off in every way and make all of our doubts, all of our fears are right there at the surface. So yes. And I offer clarity sessions, so if you are just feeling like you really could use an open, neutral listener and some help right now to get relief from a situation that you're in, please scroll down and there'll be a link for a clarity session, and sign up for that, because that you really do deserve to get support right now, no matter what your situation is, big or small. There is help, and peace is possible. It is possible to get back to peace, even in the most devastating situations.
That just made me think of something that often happens to people, and we're describing sort of experiences where we had Sallena's experience where she had support and she reached out and help was there for her. What often happens, though, to people in experience after betrayal is they reach out to their friends, and their friends are so angry and frustrated by what they went through that they sort of pile on, and it's not always so helpful when your friends are sort of trying to get you to be angrier and to take action and to do retribution. And retribution and punishment, those things are not peaceful to our souls. They don't help us heal. They don't help us move forward, move through it. And so it's really dangerous sometimes as well to only have those voices. That's why I think trying to reach out in other ways or find support, whether it's through a therapist or through a community or a group or somewhere where people are talking about things in a more peaceful way, right? In a way that's not about rage. Now, there's a place for rage, but the expression of rage, the expression of anger or hurt or frustration is important, but it so often turns into sort of this ganging up, and then all of your energy is focused in this very negative space with yourself, and that, in my experience, is not particularly helpful. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense in my experience too, and because I needed some of those people, and I needed a bulldog attorney in that moment, and that's fortunately who I found to just represent that rage in the appropriate channel. But that was only one layer of all the different layers of people that it took for me to get through that. And thank you for saying that, Kenny, because that was really useful and relevant.
Yeah. Let me just also, if I can just add one more thing that you said, that this notion of layers, it's such a profound idea. I think we don't talk about it so often in terms of relationship, but we do. We're multiplicity. We're beings of multiplicity. We're not just one thing, and so we do need. Like, I love the way Sallena expressed that. We need different kinds of relationships, different kinds of pieces that help us heal, help us in any way. So not just having one voice or one kind of voice, but different kinds of people, different kinds of friends, and reaching out in different ways, a little bit in this way, a little bit in the ways that feel helpful, I think is such a meaningful idea that goes beyond simply this idea that we're just one thing. That so often our culture tries to get us to think of ourselves as this is who I am, as opposed to I'm many things and I need relationship on many levels. And I love this idea of layers that you've spoken of a few times. I think that's a really interesting and helpful metaphor.
Mm. Good. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you too, Sallena, for reminding us there are places for the bulldog attorneys and for those people. And again, what Kenny mentioned at the beginning, and me too, that you have to step away from those initial emotions. And so here you are in the most challenging experience of your life, and this is where the blessing comes in, because if you learn to manage this, then you got it. You got it for whatever else presents itself. And that's not to downplay any aspect of the pain. And so to step back and use your greatest discernment, and also give yourself permission to fully rant, but do it in a disciplined way. And I use the metaphor, Kenny has it, put your betrayal in the closet or in the cabinet. Mine is a box with a do not open sign and maybe a big padlock. And so you really have to be disciplined and not let it take over your life, because this will take all your power away. And those negative friends who feel like they're on your side, they'll fuel the conflict, and ultimately it'll come back to bite you. So I do suggest doing the rant dates with your most zen, peaceful friend, and I give specific instructions for that, how to set it up, so that your friend knows they are just there to witness, and you get to let it rip. I mean, you get to spit and stomp and curse and say all those things that you'd really like to do in retribution. And the person who witnesses you does not give you advice, does not respond in any way. They just simply witness so that you are seen, and it's more than just you by yourself. And if something gets out of hand, you have a person to just calm you down, and then put that betrayal back in the closet, put it back in its box, lock the padlock, and go do something fun. So it really helps to have a person who's not directly engaged in the situation to witness you and then go do something with you that is not related at all to the situation. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It reminds me so often what happens just in divorce in general, forgetting betrayal, but like just when couples break up, so often one partner will go talk to their friends, and you know, you'll get all this very sort of specific hostile energy that ostensibly is help and advice, but it's really the anger of the person you're talking to that you've been hurt, and so they're expressing their hurt at your experience through these actions they want you to take. And this idea of having people who don't have skin in the game or are not so invested in your happiness in some strange way to be able to talk to can be really helpful in all of these kinds of situations. Because I think, you know, it's funny, but what you both said, I think so often we just want to be heard. You know, we're not really looking for somebody to tell us what to do often when we express what's going on in our lives. We just want someone to hear us. And yet everybody, and we all do this, is so quick to give advice and tell you what you should do, but you know, it's not their life. Even a close friend is not living your life and didn't grow up in your body with your experiences and your family and your history. So like, we really are the experts in our own experience, but we so often give that power over to somebody else because we think we're supposed to, as opposed to listening to ourselves and sort of trusting that. And I think that's where the work comes in, is learning to trust your own voice and learning to connect with this sort of authentic sense of what you value and what's important to you, and trying so hard to push away all the voices that are trying to steer you in a particular way based on a particular agenda. And it may be a benevolent or lovely agenda, but it just may not be your agenda or what you need. So this is something else that popped into my head, and it's a big part of my life and my work.
Thank you, Kenny. That is so perfect. We're at our 30 minutes now, and this has been an amazing discussion. I'm just so grateful that both Kenny Benjamin, the relationship architect, and Sallena Pool joined me today. And my interactive workbook will at ridethedragon.biz. You can download it there. It gives you actual exercises and tools to get in touch with your true voice and know what that is and how to follow it. And I would also be delighted to have a complimentary 60-minute clarity session with you. There are 2 links below this video, and it's just been an honor and a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm here for you to establish real peace after betrayal. Kenny, Sallena, parting words?
Thank you, Karyn. Delightful to be here. And on the other side of betrayal, there are blessings, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more next time.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to talk with both of you, and I appreciate the really thoughtful and open conversation. So thank you.
And this was Tapas Tuesday. Every second and fourth Tuesday, we do a little taste of transformation. I'm Karyn Amore, Peace After Betrayal speaker, coach, and author of Ride the Dragon. And you can pick that up for a short time for free as my gift to you at ridethedragon.biz. Peace, blessings, and yes, we will continue the conversation in a couple of weeks. Ciao for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.